Dennis Bergkamp started the game against Sheffield Wednesday in the same fashion as he did against Spurs a few days earlier, providing the opening goal. Chris Waddle may not be the first name on the team sheet these days, but he's lost none of his touch or flair, here providing the perfect cross for David Hirst, who rises above Tony Adams for the equaliser. Winterburn's indecision here, and then an unfortunate slip by Bold, provides Guy Whittingham with a chance to become provider. This time for Chris Waddle. His first goal for 3 months. Any earlier indecision by Arsenal's Winterburn was soon rectified. A touch of class by Bergkamp, and no doubt about that. John Hartson makes his presence felt as he outjumps the Wednesday defence, and Paul Dickoff shows what can be achieved with skill and composure. 3-2. Graham Hyde's 30-yard drive beat everyone but the crossbar. It would have been a tremendous equaliser. 4 minutes from time, it was David Platt who decided to stamp his authority on the game, finding John Hartson, whose efforts were finally rewarded, and gave Arsenal their 6th home win in succession, and 4-2 on the night.
Tonight at Up.
As ever, we'll have all the goals from the midweek Premiership games and some fascinating conversation as well, not least Gary Lineker with Paul Merson, and Paul was very keen to talk about all his problems of the last year.
Yes, he was, and the reason is that he clearly wants to deter others from going down a similar path, and he speaks well, and hopefully he'll have the desired effect.
Well, it was at a rather notorious press conference exactly a year ago that the depressing depth of Paul's drink and gambling problems became apparent. Well, a year on, the transformation has been achieved, but only after a grueling regime of therapy and sacrifice, as Gary discovered when he talked to Paul Merson.
My life's changed completely, you know. Everything I used to do, I don't do now. You know, even silly little things like go shopping with my wife, you know, I couldn't have done them last year, and that's the way it is, and I love training now, and I love playing football, and, you know, I can't wait for the next game, you know, before it become a little bit of a chore.
How difficult or scary was it to announce to everybody about your own problems?
I didn't think it was that big, to tell the truth. I'd done it, and I didn't know it was going to be, honestly think it was going to be that big. But I was pleased I'd done it. You know, maybe I could have gone into treatment and no one ever know. And then in a year's time, someone would have come forward and, you know, told a story. So I just wanted to get everything out in the open.
When did it start? Did you always like a drink and have a bet?
16. So from the age of 16, I was drinking heavily and doing my wages straight away from 16. So. And then it just, the more money I earned, the worse it got.
Did you feel it was a problem early on?
The drinking, gambling, yeah, it was a problem, but, you know, I'd kid myself I can go 5 days without a drink, so that ain't too bad. I could never go longer than a week, but, you know, 5 days, it was all right.
When did drugs become part of your life? As a habit?
Last January before, and, you know, I'd been around drugs a couple of years with people in pubs, and, you know, always said no, and, you know, one night too many drinks, and I said yes, and from then on, you know, I was addicted. It must be my nature, but, you know, it was hell. You know, the way it goes, it's frightening.
When you got to that sort of low ebb, how would you describe a typical day in the life of Paul Merson?
The paranoia was the first thing. It was everybody thinking everybody was following me. You know, I'd be in the car going to training, and a car would be behind me. I'd have to turn left and then right and then stop the car and make sure they weren't following me. And it was just paranoia, you know, thinking where I'm going to get my next bet on. And, you know, as soon as training's finished, I had no intentions of going home. You know, I'd go straight to the pub and, you know, take it from there. And that was the way it was, you know. I didn't have time for anybody, just myself, and I was selfish. But that was like what it was like, and I never thought I'd be able to get out of that.
Did it affect your family life a great deal?
Yeah, a lot, too much.
In what way?
Every way. Arguing at home in front of the kids, you know, treating my wife. You know, I've said it before, I threw my wife down the stairs once in a temper, a rage, and, you know, all because of drinking, drugs and gambling. You know, I'd never do that now. And they're the kind of things, and, you know, what the kids have been through, just watching me come in, and, you know, my little boy still says now, "You're not going out tonight, are you, Daddy?" And you know, and they're the things that still hurt me, and, you know, them things are hard. I still get guilty about them things.
Was your self-esteem very low at the time? Because I've read somewhere that you'd even contemplated suicide.
Yeah, you know, I thought about it. It is different from thinking and doing it, but, you know, I did used to go on the way to training thinking if I pulled in front of this lorry now, you know, it would all be over, because it was that bad, and I was, you know, I was letting a lot of people down.
When was the moment, or was there a moment that you suddenly said, well, enough is enough, I've got to do something about this?
Yeah, it was when my wife said I'd have to leave. Lorraine said, you know, I've had enough now, and, you know, you have to pack your bags. And before, you know, she'd said it, I'd always, you know, shrug my shoulders and think, well, you know, she's going to change her mind. But I knew this time it was for real, and, you know, I couldn't live on my own. And I broke down in tears. You know, I went upstairs to pack, and I just cracked. And that was when I said to her, I need help, I'm struggling.
How did you go about that? Was that when you came out publicly?
That's when I come out public to the papers. You know, I had to get everything out of me. But at the time, I was just thinking to myself again, really, because, you know, the things I said that hurt my wife.
And then you started to go for counselling, for treatment. How did you go about that? Did somebody help you?
Yeah, the FA had a treatment centre already sorted out, so they sent me down. I believe the FA done brilliant, because, you know, if they'd have said, right, you're banned for a year or whatever, that wouldn't have helped me at all. You know, it would probably made me worse. So they sent me down to treatment centre, and I was in there for 6 weeks, which was really hard. It was the hardest 6 weeks I've ever done. It's harder than pre-season. So now pre-season's easy now. Yeah. So it was just all work of talking about myself, what I was like as a kid, and talking about everything, and trying to get everything out before I go out, and have no secrets before I go out into the open world again. And, you know, it was hard, but, you know, I owe a lot of people in that treatment centre.
What was it like the first day you went there? Scary?
First day was terrible. I went down there, I didn't know what it was like. Someone drove me down there, and I went in, and all I was worried about was getting home for Christmas to be with my kids and my wife, and they said, you can't go home. And that was it, and I cracked. I broke down in tears, and I said, I can't stay, I have to go. He said, you can go, but, you know, you won't play football again. Mm. One of the counsellors said, you know, you've got to make your mind up. You either have one Christmas at home with your family now, and then probably won't see the next one, or you can have like the next 50 Christmases together. And, you know, it was still hard. And then I got into my room, and I rang my wife up and said, you have to get me out. You have to make an excuse up. And she wouldn't have it, which I thank her now. But, you know, and I stayed in there, and it got better. I got used to it in the end, and I liked being in there because it was safe. You know, and there was no, you know, no pressures. There's no drink around or anything. And they taught me a lot, and, you know, up to today I'm all right.
How were the club? How were Arsenal and George Graham? Were they very supportive?
Yeah, they were brilliant. The club were brilliant. Yeah, George was brilliant. He has been throughout my career. You know, I think I've had about 5 or 6 chances at Arsenal over the years. And, you know, if I look back now on scrapbook, you know, I was getting in trouble in 89 and 90 and 91, and, you know, it's just progressed. But everybody's been brilliant, and, you know, especially the fans. You know, I believe if I'd have come on against AC Milan and got booed, you know, I don't think I'd have been out of play.
I don't think they'd do that to you, but I think most people understand and know that you've had a great problem and that you've worked so hard to get over it. But you must still get difficult days, bad days, and the temptation must still always be there, and it's in front of you so much.
Yeah, it is. That's hard. You know, if it's there, it's like, you know, I go out every now and then with the lads, or, you know, I'll go into a pub, but, you know, I can only go in once, a week, or, you know, that'll be it, or once a month. You know, if I kept on going in the pub every day, I would have a drink. You know, it's like if you're going I could use it if you're going hairdressers 5 times, you will have an haircut by the end. So, you know, that's what I have to.
Wish I hadn't.
Yeah, that's what I have to do, and you know, I stay out of, you know, wet places. And it's the same with betting. You know, if you don't go in the betting shop, you ain't going to have a bet. So they're hard, but if you want it, you know, and you work at it, you know, you can do it. And people who relapse, you know, maybe, I don't know, but you know, I want it badly, and I want to stay the way I am now.
Is that the key to it? Do you still have treatment, by the way?
Yeah, I have to go to meetings 3 times a week, and you know, down to Southampton once a month, and I'm on the phone to my counsellor twice a week, just talking about the week.
How about your progress in football? You certainly look a lot fitter. You seem to have lost quite a lot of weight.
I lost about a stone in weight, and I work hard now, and it's paying dividends for me anyway. I could sign a new contract at Arsenal, and it's my testimonial year at Arsenal, and it's been 10 years. You know, it's been up and down 10 years, but you know, it's been worth it so far, and that's, you know, you get the dividends.
When you look back now over the last year, you must be proud of what you've achieved.
Yeah, every night I go to bed, I feel, you know, proud of myself. You know, it's been hard, but it hasn't been hard. You know, I've had bad days, but they're nothing compared to the 365 I had last year.
Mm.
So, you know, it does make it easier like that.
Can you look far ahead to the future, or is it one day at a time?
It is one day. I always say it to everybody. People must get so fed up with it, but you know, I don't get fed up. It is one day at a time, and you know, tomorrow is another day, and you know, who knows?
So your ambitions are just
my ambition is just to, you know, stay clean and sober.
Mm.
And then, you know, if I'm clean and sober, my family's going to be happy, my kids are going to be happy, and you know, my football's going to benefit.
There seem to be a lot of dangers nowadays for young footballers. Do you think they're more of a target than perhaps other kids or other young people of that age?
No, I don't think so. I think, you know, it could happen to anybody. I don't think you have to be earning, you know, big money or have a brilliant job. You know, it could happen to anybody on the street. You know, it was right what poor Leah's mum and dad said, you know, when they were interviewed on telly, who I admire so much for what they've done, is that they said to the press people, you've got kids, you know, what are they doing now? And it is, you know, people don't know what their kids are doing. It could happen to any kids. And, you know, mum and dads have got to be careful. You know, because a lot of mum and dads will be saying, you know, it won't happen to my boy, or it won't happen to my girl. But, you know, my mum and dad must have been thinking that.
Is that why you feel it's good to be so open? Do you feel that you can perhaps help others through your experiences?
Yeah, that's what I wrote my book. I don't want to plug my book, you know, but I wrote the book to get everything out, and I've been to I was at a GA meeting last week, and one young lad got up and talked in front of everybody, and he said, I'm here because of Paul Merson's book, which for me, you know, was brilliant, because if it helps one person, and it is helping people, you know, people are seeing, well, Paul Merson can do it, so I can do it. And, you know, they can, if you want it that badly. So, it is good, but my message for me is to say no, and for me to stay clean and sober, and, you know, that's the best message I can give.
And continued good performances on the football field? Yeah,
and to play well, and, you know, keep confidence up, and hopefully win things at Arsenal again, which we will.
Wish you all the best, Paul. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you.
Yes, good luck to him. We ran that interview at length for obvious reasons. Fascinating stuff. What sort of respect and regard do you have for Paul Merson after that conversation?
Well, I think what he's achieved has been tremendous. At the time, there was a lot of negative publicity. Thankfully, he got the right sort of support from the people that mattered, from Arsenal, George Graham, his manager at the time, from the FA. It would have been so easy for them to have just slapped his wrist and punished him, which would have had an adverse effect, a negative effect. He's repaid that support by sticking at it through clearly very difficult and traumatic treatment, and he's come out the better for it, and he's sending out a message to others in similar circumstances. and especially those I feel that could go that way. And I think it's tremendous what he's done, and he speaks so eloquently and publicly about it.
It's an incredibly brave thing that he's doing, but it is important that he maintains this kind of profile that we've seen today.
I think so, and as far as he's concerned, of course, that he sticks at it. He has got a tremendous determination to overcome his problems, which is, I think, came out clearly in that interview, and wish him continued success with it.
This could happen to anyone, which was an important message from that interview, but do you think footballers are especially vulnerable, young, time on their hands, money in their pocket?
Well, I think it is clear from what Paul said that everybody is vulnerable, but I do feel that footballers do have a lot of money, and they do have a lot of time on their hands. Most of the time it's just a morning's training. What do they do in the afternoon? Is it golf? Is it down the bookies? Is it down the pub? Not many of them, I feel, probably go to try further education and things like that, which is perhaps where we should target things in the game now. But the dangers are there for all to see, and people like Paul speaking out and making people aware of those dangers can only help.
But the FA and the clubs have their role to play, and they both deserve an enormous amount of credit for the way Paul's come through this.
Absolutely, but I think they can perhaps take it further. I'm sure some clubs try and educate their young players, and not so young players, into the dangers that do exist. And I think if they can concentrate more on that and perhaps go deeper and real education for young players, then that's got to be good too.
Well, Arsenal with...
The verdict on Sunday's game at Highbury was that it didn't match up in terms of entertainment. There were no goals, but if blame has to be handed out, point to the goalkeepers. Blackburn's Tim Flowers got a hand to a Paul Merson shot, but his colleague in the England international squad standing at the other end of the pitch wasn't going to be outdone. David Seaman watched Shearer head the ball across goal and then threw up an arm to make a great reflex save from Mike Newell. It was great goalkeeping, not a great game. Arsenal stand third in the Premiership table.